Have you ever wanted to do something but didn't know what step to take first, so you start researching? Before you know it, research leads to too much information and you decide not to do the thing you originally wanted? Welcome to analysis paralysis. Analysis paralysis is when overthinking and overanalyzing a problem or decision prevents you from taking action. It's a state of being unable to move forward because you're overwhelmed by data, options, or the fear of making a mistake. And with so much information at our fingertips, it doesn't take much to feel overwhelmed. In this episode, I'm sharing 5 ways to overcome analysis paralysis so you can start taking action towards the things that you want to do or the problems you want to solve. Now, before I get into how you can overcome analysis paralysis, I want to share my experience with it. I have always been really good about information seeking. Okay, I've always been an information seeker. But in addition to that, I've always been good about taking action with the information I seek. So when I wanted to start acting at age 9 and got information from an agent on what steps to take so that I could start acting, I took those steps and signed with that agent. When I wanted to start City Girl Savings and had no idea how to create a website that had the functionality I actually envisioned, I found a web design company and paid the retainer. So clearly, I'm really good about taking action with the information I get, but I'm not great about getting multiple options or opinions. When I went with the first agent that would sign me, I was 9, so I'll give myself a pass. I didn't do any other research. I went with the first agent. I also went with the first web design company I found without pricing out anyone else. So these types of actions have resulted in me spending more money than I needed to because I didn't take the extra time or steps to explore enough options or seek out more information than the minimum needed to move forward. And I share that with you because there's always two ends of a spectrum. If you don't do any research, it can cost you money and time. If you do too much research, it can cost you time. Let's strive to find that middle ground so we feel most confident in our decisions. Analysis paralysis doesn't affect everyone, but everyone can benefit from actually doing the research, putting in the time to learn what you need to know to make the best decision to move forward. Okay, I will get off my soapbox and let's move on to the 5 ways to overcome analysis paralysis and start taking action like now. So the first one is start small by choosing one thing to focus on. When you are overwhelmed by options or information, I think breaking the decision down into smaller, manageable parts can really make it easier to start. Oftentimes, the hardest part is taking that first step. It's actually getting started with the project or the decision or the thing you want to do. So instead of trying to tackle everything at once, identify one small action that will move you closer to your goal. So, for example, if you are overwhelmed by the idea of starting a side hustle, then maybe your first step is to begin researching one type of side hustle that interests you. So, maybe it's freelance writing, maybe it's graphic design, maybe it's being a rideshare driver. Find that one side hustle idea that interests you and focus only on that for 1 week. I think the momentum from completing that first small step can really build the confidence you need to move forward, but also reduce overwhelm. And I feel like this applies in every area, right? I mean, I have clients who are trying to start businesses or trying to do things they've never done before. And sometimes they find themselves overwhelmed by all the things they have to do to get the ball rolling. And I always like to remind them, hey, let's take it back to what is the first step? What is the one thing that we can do right now or we can do next to get you closer to the goal you want to achieve? So I think this really applies in every area, but especially when it comes to analysis paralysis. Start small by choosing one thing to focus on first and let that fuel you to continue getting things done. The next way to overcome analysis paralysis is to set a decision deadline. This is a big one because deadlines really do create a sense of urgency and they reduce the time that you spend in indecision. And without a deadline, decisions or actions or steps you need to take can drag on indefinitely, just feeding into the analysis paralysis. So, when it comes to taking action or making a decision or doing something, set a specific time frame for getting it done. So, let's say you are choosing between two different career opportunities. Give yourself a weekend to weigh the pros and cons of each opportunity and then commit to a decision by Monday. So deadlines force you to make a choice based on the information you have rather than endlessly seeking more information and basically delaying your next steps. So again, setting a deadline really does put that sense of urgency under you to make a decision and take action. Just make sure it's realistic, right? I'll give you an example of a time where I set a deadline and stuck to it so I wasn't, constantly pushing out a goal. The City Girl Savings Team retreat. I started getting the ball rolling on that 8 months before, things were actually booked. And I gave myself that deadline. Okay, by the end of October of 2024, I need to have everyone's RSVP. I need to have dates confirmed. I need this so I can start booking in preparation for a June 2025 retreat. So your deadlines can be short, they can be long, make them work for you, but the whole point is to leverage the deadline to help you make a choice or take action instead of constantly delaying that choice or action. Next way to overcome analysis paralysis is to prioritize progress over perfection. And we've all heard progress over perfection. We know that phrase. And it's easy to say, harder to implement, I think, especially for women. I mean, we have this mindset that everything needs to be perfect, or we can't start until it's perfect. We can't do XYZ until things are perfect. We can't take action until the timing is perfect. And one thing I've realized over time is there's never going to be a perfect time. Nothing is ever going to align so magically that, you just know it's the right time. It does not work like that. Life does not work like that. And the pursuit of perfection often leads to stagnation because you fear making mistakes. You fear not getting it right. But progress is all about learning and growing and taking the action and seeing what you get from that action. I think when you can focus on making incremental improvements instead of trying to create the perfect plan or outcome, you're going to feel much better, number one. And number two, you're actually going to get things done. Waiting for that perfect time or that perfect plan is a losing game because it doesn't exist. There is no perfect time or perfect plan. And not only that, you waste time in the process, and time is valuable. Time that could be time that you are learning what needs to be changed or enhanced or improved so that you can get a better outcome. So maybe you have a goal to overhaul your health and fitness routine. And instead of being overwhelmed with the idea of creating the perfect diet, the perfect workout, and the perfect supplement plan, take the tip we shared earlier, focus on one step or task at a time. Start with walking 15 minutes a day and then add on to it. And just know you can always adjust as you go. I think the important thing to remember here is that taking imperfect action is better than taking no action at all. And the goal is progress, not perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. Now, I'm not saying, don't give it your all, don't try your best, don't, try to make it as good as you possibly can. Obviously, you should give your choices, your decisions, your actions the best possible work effort, but do not wait for perfection. Do not expect perfection. Expect progress and expect to learn, to grow, to enhance, to improve. And that only comes with taking action. So, again, taking imperfect action is better than taking no action at all because you're waiting for things to be perfect. Okay, the next way to overcome analysis paralysis, limit your options. Okay, the more choices you have, the harder it is to actually make a decision. And psychologists call this the paradox of choice. So, limiting your options reduces cognitive load and makes decisions easier. When you have too many options on the table, it's just too much to go through, too much to analyze, too much information to actually make a decision that you feel confident with. So, giving yourself less options makes that mental weight a lot easier for you to make the best decision for you. So, when it comes to something that you're deciding on or actions that you're trying to take, narrow your choices to maybe the top two or three options that meet your most important criteria. Okay, so for example, let's say that you are deciding on a new cell phone. When you are looking for this new cell phone, make a list of the top priorities you want this cell phone to have. So maybe it's the best camera quality, really good battery life, or an affordable price. So make a list of the top priorities for whatever you're deciding on, and any option that doesn't fall within those priorities, go ahead and get rid of them, right? Like, we want to narrow our options down as much as possible. And in doing so, this really helps you focus on the most relevant factors that you need to move forward with confidence. And it allows you to ignore the extra noise that can cause you to second guess your choices. So, when you are deciding between what to do, a decision to make, a purchase, narrow your options down as much as possible. Make sure those options really match the priorities and criteria you're looking for, and then just let go of the rest and mentally be okay with that. I have a saying I like to share with my brother when we kind of go on our tangents. That's, when you make a decision, put the stake in the ground. Like, this is it. I'm making this decision. I'm not going to second guess this decision, but I am vowing to learn from this decision. And if I need to change or do something different as a result of what I find out from this decision, so be it, right? Like, we have that ability to do that. Okay, the final step to overcome analysis paralysis and ultimately start taking action is to trust your gut and take action. Your intuition is such a valuable tool, especially after you've done some significant research. I think overthinking and overanalyzing can really cloud your confidence, but when you trust your gut, you are empowered to make those decisions with conviction. So, when you have all of the information in front of you, when you're ready to move forward, pause and ask yourself, like, what feels right for me in this moment? And often your initial instinct or your initial thought aligns with what's best for you. So let's take an example. If you are debating on moving to a new city, reflect on the thought, how that thought makes you feel. Okay, so when you think, okay, I've been really wanting to move to New York City, how do I feel about that? Are you excited? Are you apprehensive? Are you nervous? Are you worried, right? So really reflect on the thought and how it makes you feel and let that guide you. If you are feeling excitement and hopeful anxiousness, that's probably a good sign that, hey, like, it's time to make the move. And I know we kind of touched on this, but taking action really reinforces trust in yourself. It reinforces confidence in yourself, and it helps you reduce that fear of making mistakes. Mistakes are going to happen to all of us, but mistakes are not an indicator of failure. Mistakes help us learn so we can do things differently and grow. You can't make mistakes unless you take action. So no more sitting on the sidelines, not taking action. We need to make a move and learn from the moves we make. I think One thing I'm good about when it comes to this is just moving forward 100% with my decision or choice. Like I said, I often put the stake in the ground and tell myself, this is what I'm doing. This is how I'm moving forward. Once that decision is made, I don't look back. I don't spend time thinking, what if? I take the action and I learn from what happens. If I need to change something in the future, I trust in my abilities to do what needs to be done at that time. And I do believe this comes with practice, right? The more you kind of put yourself in situations where you need to adapt or innovate or change, the better you'll become at it and the more confident you'll feel when doing those things. The more risks you take, the more decisions you act on, the more you do things that scare you, the more confidence you will build within yourself. So, the strategies I shared today are designed to help you take action, not necessarily guarantee perfect outcomes. Okay. Remember, making decisions, even if they're not perfect or even if you don't have all the information, is a skill that does improve with practice. By starting small, setting boundaries, and ultimately trusting yourself, you will develop that confidence to tackle the bigger decisions and actions that need to happen without feeling stuck in analysis paralysis. So you'll also learn from the actions you take, right? And that learning, that knowledge you gain will help you make better decisions in the future. It's funny how taking imperfect action works that way.